What is up, everybody? Welcome to What Did Adam Say, Season 4, Episode 13. I know I say this like every episode, but I can't believe that it's December. Like, every time that I do one of these episodes, I'm like, holy crap, like, the year's almost over. I've had a crazy year, which on the 30th, I'm doing a solo show, and I'm going to talk about my whole year. But more importantly, right now, I have my good friend Rachel Goldberg with me, fellow Pisces. So, Pisces gang, we do the damn thing. And an empath warrior for sure. She's one of my good friends that I met through the cannabis industry. It's probably that Pisces energy that like really connected. Like I feel like sometimes I think about why don't I have more Pisces friends. But it's gonna be a good show. We're gonna talk about natural healing, earthing, cannabis, mushrooms, all that kind of stuff. And I can't wait. So make sure you guys share this so your friends can watch with you. And let's go.
Wait, what am I doing? Created a movement, won't ruin what you are pursuing. But I wake up every morning, never yawning, cause I wake up with the intent to make the day my bitch. And I don't need it, you talking, so just shut your lips. Cause I'ma make it, yeah, I'ma make it, I'ma make it, I'ma make it. Lord have mercy, I'ma make it. I wake up with the intent to make the day my bitch. And I don't need it, you talking, so just shut your lips. I'ma make it, yeah, I'ma make it, I'ma make it, I'ma make it. Lord have mercy, I'ma make it up. This shit is crazy, right? This shit is crazy, right?
This shit is crazy, right? This world we're living and just trying to connect back to the earth. How the hell have you been? I know we talked a little bit before the show, but I didn't really get to ask like how you have been.
I've actually been great. I always feel weird saying that during like such a chaotic time for the world, but yeah, me personally, I can't complain. I've been I've been great. Just able to cultivate my Pisces dream world. So
Hey.
I was laughing when you said, I wonder why I don't have more Pisces friends.
Yeah, I had that thought. I was like, how, like, I know, like, sometimes I'm a little hard to deal with, especially since, like, I don't know, they say people on the cusp have like a little bit of the other trait. I'm like 2 days away from the Aries cusp,
Okay.
like I'm like right there. Once in a while, I feel like there's some real fire in there,
Yeah.
and but 90% of me is Pisces, like it's like
Mhm.
there's a 10% of me that's a little fiery.
Mhm.
But
You should
I'm
have
like, so why wouldn't I want to hang out with people like me that are motivated and like, I don't know, dreamers?
Yeah, it's a unique perspective of the world. Like
Hmm.
Pisces have access to a grander vision, and I think it could be really hard for other people to grasp sometimes what we're putting out there.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My partner is a Pisces. His birthday is the
Oh.
day before mine, and now I'm like, of course, like I should have thought of this before. Like, of course, because
Yeah.
just how we understand each other.
Yeah. Mine is a Taurus, and she's definitely the far, 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 far more grounded than I am. Like, she's all the time like, why are you like, I get you're a dreamer, but holy shit, Adam. Like,
That's awesome that that Taurus energy to ground you.
yeah, it gets frustrating, because I'm just like, sometimes I just think out loud. It's like I probably won't do that, but just go with it. Just
Yeah, you have to release.
constantly brainstorming.
Oh, it doesn't stop. It's constant.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Have you been to any cannabis events like in person,
not.
like the past 2 years?
I think the last one I went to was Harvest Cup.
Holy crap!
Yeah, it's been a while.
I did go to Nikken, but not really. Like I went there to speak, so I showed up like 2 hours beforehand and then spoke and had to go because that was like I think it was Friday or Sat. It was Friday, yeah. And I was supposed to pick up my son, but his mom dropped him off for me, because I texted her. I'm like, "Hey, I'm not gonna get back in time. Like, can you?" She's like, "No problem," which is cool. Um, so I was just like in and out of there. I didn't go to Nikken at all, so I don't even like really consider that.
Yeah. How did speaking go?
It was great. It was great. Like um on the panel, I mentioned that, I'm a hemp farmer and I'm getting into cryptocurrency, especially NFTs. And one of my co-panelists laughed audibly, like,
Uh-oh.
and I literally just like smiled and just like kept moving on. But I am so glad that I have that captured so that in like 5 years, that video is gonna go viral of like, do you remember when and like when I said it was a serious thing and you laughed?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm not mad. It's just like, I'm trying to help you guys. Like
Well, again, that's the I don't know if it's like heartache or it's like part of the ache of being the visionary is it takes time. There's a gap between the time you have your intuitive hit, your insight, and then the
Mhm.
time it becomes apparent to others. But that's kind of reminds me of Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan,
Hmm.
uh, called crypto a joke back in I think 2017. And now the banks are getting into crypto, so don't knock it.
Yeah. Yeah, they wanna hate on it until it's a real thing, and then they balloon the market and
Yeah.
push people out, and it's so crazy, how unregulated everything is. Like, that's why I get why some people don't like it, but, I mean, everything was unregulated at one point, right? And who says
Exactly.
regulations are really good? We've seen a lot of bad regulations this past couple years.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
somebody was saying to me that like they think that the shutdowns are science based, and I was like, listen, I'm not a scientist, but isn't the purpose of science to always be trying to disprove yourself?
Mhm.
So why have we just accepted that nothing else works besides the vaccine? Like, that's what bothers me, and that's what makes me think something is going on,
Yeah.
because when 2 and 2 doesn't make 4, you don't just ignore it. And and it's so frustrating. I don't even know.
I mean, that it makes me sad for science, like in general, for the scientific community, because that like trust the science. That's actually like there was a Yale study that's like it's you can access it on the internet. It was done in 2020, and they were the study was seeing it was like messaging about the pandemic, about the vaccine. And it was like how to shame people into getting it, how to guilt people into getting it. And like one of the messaging was trust the science.
Mhm.
So it's all pretty scripted and just from my perspective, like what I do as my vocation is I work in leadership. I
Mhm.
I help people understand and become educated on leadership. So all these there are like really clear pathways to growth oriented, healing, fueling leadership, and the other is more tyrannical
Hmm.
dictator leadership, and the signs of that are force, coercion, manipulation. And so when I see um, that kind of leadership, it's just, an obvious red flag to me.
Same. And like, it just I don't I put up something on my story on Instagram that had like, you know, like those old connect-a-dot pictures that were in like coloring books, and it was
Mhm.
just like a blank one with all it wasn't drawn in yet, and it was like, remember doing these on as a kid, and how we had to connect the dots.
Yep.
Why are we not connecting the dots? Like it just was that simple. Like people wanna this is what you're talking about with like the forced coercion and the
Mhm.
separation. They're trying to make it like pro-vax and anti-vax, and it's like not that simple. Like I'm not anti-vax. I've had all my vaccines. I don't do the flu shot or nothing, but like I've had all my vaccines as an adult. You
Mhm.
know, like will I get more? Probably not. You know, but that's my personal choice. You
Same.
know, like it doesn't affect anybody but me. Like if I don't get my tetanus shot, who does it affect?
Right? It's so weird. I've never been accused of being anti-vax up until now with this
Mhm.
one thing it's only been 2 years. And that I mean, sometimes I just stand back and I'm like, "Wow, they really figured it out." Like, they really split us up into 2 camps a
Mhm.
while ago. Like, this was years coming, this binary structure, and which is natural. Like that's going to happen with a two-party political system. We're going to be in the mindset of saying we're right, they're wrong. We're the good
Mhm.
guys, they're the bad guys. So when every facet of life is politicized, that's what it's going to be, that binary structure, anti-vax, pro-vax, and somehow they figured out how to just put us all in this one group.
Mhm.
And yeah, they really did it. It's
It's like, you know, like when people really hate the right wing if they're extreme left wing and vice versa. And it's like, how? I'm literally so smack dab in the middle of everything. Like I do think, like I was listening to Rogan today, and he worded it perfectly. He's like, I do think that people should have a chance, and I do think if there's a single mom out there working her ass off and she can't afford her kid the stuff for her kids, she should get some help. And he's like, I do think that people should be able to smoke weed, but I also do think that everybody should be able to own a gun and be able to hunt, and there should be, you know, voting ID. Like he just went over everything. Like he had it so dialed in. Like that's what it is. It's like why be one side or the other when we're all kind of like a little bit of everything.
Yep. It's actually like if we had infinite choices, we would actually be more united. It's just
Yep.
because we have two choices that we're so divided and we push each other to extremes.
Hmm.
And we're multifaceted, multidimensional beings. Like we don't know each other's whole life story. Like my personal life story, like I've been on a health and wellness journey for many years and purifying my body, getting myself off of pharmaceuticals. So I know my body so well, like
Hmm.
so well. So to think that I would, well, A, not trust my intuition. Like I learned my lesson when it comes to silencing my intuition and choosing against it. Like the last time I did that, I got sick.
Hmm.
So I promised myself, I was like, I will never silence my intuition again. When my intuition is clear and unwavering and has that much conviction, is that firm, I'm aligning with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess if people haven't had that experience of really hearing their intuition that clearly and firmly, maybe they don't understand what that might mean to someone who is that connected with intuition.
Hmm.
Um, and that could be really hard to explain. But when it comes to something like this, like I know my body, I know my intuition, and sovereignty is one of my core values.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, it's like a lot of people act like, you know, they act like I'm trying to be holier than thou. And I'm like, it's not like that at all. It's I used to drink 2 to 4 Mountain Dews a day, on top of 1 to 2 NOS energy drinks a day, on top of 1 to 2 coffees a day, and then eating like Kit Kats and Reese's and all this other stuff every day, and like all this other junk food, McDonald's and stuff every day. Like it's I've been there.
Yep.
You know, like I used to take like between 2 and 8 Excedrin migraines a day for like 10 years, literally. Literally, like my stomach, I'm still healing my stomach from this. Like I'm all my insides are so messed up from it. So like it's not that I don't understand, because I fully understand where a lot of people are coming from. It's like how they were raised. It's like an addiction, and you gotta cut the addiction off, and it's very, 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 very difficult. And I'm still not perfect, you know. Like I still have a Kit Kat once in a while. Like it's just about not eating it every day or every week, even.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just spacing it out. So it's like I've learned my lessons, and like you said, I learned my body. Like when I went to the hospital this one time, I had like everybody's like thinks I'm super anti-Western medicine. No, like when I have something I can't figure out and I can't heal on my own, yeah, I'll probably go see a doctor. I had a pain in my groin that literally had me like in my bed sweating, and then all of a sudden I was shivering like under like 2 comforters. It was really bad. Like I was in so much pain, and I went to the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong, and I was like, "There's something up. Like I don't know what's wrong, but there's something wrong." And I was like, "I know my body." And the doctor like, "What?" It's like, "Oh, okay, all
Geez.
right." And he tried to give me like Zofran or something like that, and I was like, No, like that's not what I want. Like, what else can we do to figure out what the hell is like? This is a weird pain. Is it a kidney stone? Like, what's going on? No, not a kidney stone. Definitely not. Like, what the hell is it? And yeah, I don't even remember what I did to really like make it better. I think I just did some like apple cider vinegar stuff just in case it was a kidney stone. And they once they hit me up with what is it called? Morphine. They were like, "We're gonna give you some morphine." And I'm like, I don't even care. Like I'm in so much fucking pain right now. Like it's like at that point you're just desperate to make it go away. It's like cool. And then when it went away, I left there not in pain.
Good.
I
Yeah.
drove away from there, which you're definitely not. They're not supposed to really let me do that. Like they told me like, "Oh, you have to have somebody come pick you up because you took that." And then they watched me just walk out, and I waved to them like, "All right." Like I'm driving by.
That experience of the doctor like scoffing and just not hearing you, like that's the kind of experience that ha- hasn't like I'm not anti-Western medicine, but it did I did start developing a distrust of not doctors, but just how they're trained, what they're trained in.
Big
Um,
pharma.
exactly. Have you seen the show Dope Sick?
No, I haven't.
Ooh, it's on Hulu. It's the story of the OxyContin epidemic and the Sackler family. And actually, while I was watching it, I was noticing patterns. Like that's what I do. I notice
Mm,
patterns. I notice patterns of the collective. I notice patterns of behavior, and I just objectively watch. I discern. I don't judge. I just take note. And there are certain patterns like so in Dope Sick, oh, I don't want to spoil anything. They're just like patterns of language and
mm,
tactics that Purdue Pharma was using that I just see happening now.
yeah,
And so watching that show, I was like, maybe they are preparing us for what's to come.
yeah.
Hopefully. But yeah, it's that um, like when the last time I saw my primary care doctor, it was years ago, and I went to have my inhaler prescription refilled for
Mm,
asthma, and he was adding an inhaler. In addition to my rescue inhaler, he was adding like this long-term inhaler. And I was like, I don't really think I need that. I was trying to bring up diet and anti-inflammatory foods. Like that was around the time I started researching what I could eat to bring down inflammation. I learned, it was just after I started on this new path in energy leadership, which I do now, and learning that stress is the leading cause of inflammation. So stress and poor diet, but yeah, stress. So I was already on the path of reducing stress, cleaning up what I was putting into my body, and exploring foods that reduce inflammation.
Mhm.
He just wasn't into talking about it at all, and I was like almost struggling to get a word in. And I was also he brought up an asthma attack that I had, but it was when I was in an abusive relationship, so I was trying to explain that it was situational, that my
Yeah,
stress.
it was like a panic attack mixed with an asthma attack, yeah.
Exactly, like, it was so situational, and he ended up prescribing me this inhaler, and I was just like, "No, I think I'm done here." Um, and I just kind of listened to my inner guidance, followed my path, and
Mm.
um, yeah, haven't really gotten it refilled in quite a
Yeah,
time.
so another story about how big pharma failed me is, when I was 19, I wasn't feeling good one day, so I bought some Dayquil, and then I just remember taking Dayquil that day. I felt a little better after I took it, and then before I went to bed, I took a little bit more. I woke and I had this like weird feeling. It was just like I couldn't even tell what it was. And then in the middle of the night, I woke up like gasping for air, like grabbing my chest, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "What the hell is going on?" Like, just rubbed Vicks on me and, like, gave me another Dayquil, and when it hit me, I just went back to sleep until I had to go to work. And then, because Dayquils make me sleepy, like, that's how sensitive to this shit I am, like, um, we the next morning, I woke up, and I had this pain in my chest, like, right here, and I was just like, "Oh, that's weird," like, every time I breathe and when I talk, it was like this, "Hey, so yeah, I'm gonna go to." Like, when I first started talking, I was like, "Ooh, why can't I talk?" Like, I just couldn't even do it. It was too much.
Mhm.
I was working in a warehouse in Best Buy at the time. I work at 7 o'clock. I showed up for work at 7 o'clock, and I called my doctor. And then he called me back and was like, "If you're having that severe of chest pain, you need to go to the hospital. Like, there's nothing I can do for you, and you shouldn't be at work at a warehouse. Like, you should be at the hospital." So I like did my morning duties till like 9:30, and then my roommate at the time came in, and everybody else came in. Like, that's when they came in. My roommate was talking to me like, Dude, you okay? Like, you didn't sound good last night. I heard that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing all right." Like, just trying to talk through it. And this old lady, Mary, she like loved me. She worked in appliances. She came over and she's like, "Why? What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And like, she's like, "No, tell me." And my roommate told her. And she's like, "You need to go to the hospital. What are you doing, young man? Like, go to the hospital." I'm like, I can't afford it. Like, I gotta work." And then she told my manager, and he made me leave. I went home first because I'm a stubborn bastard, and I think I, like, took a shower and then got dressed. The whole time, like, I'm having the hardest time breathing. I get to the hospital. They're running these gamma tests. They took a blood test. They took an X-ray. They didn't see anything on the X-ray, so then they took a CAT scan. And I guess when I was out for a CAT scan, because my girlfriend at the time came with me, she stayed back, and she overheard the nurses, because we were in a curtained-off room. You could hear them talking about, "Oh, I'm so sick of these people coming in here looking for drugs. Like, all they want is drugs. These young kids acting like they have chest pain. Like, come on, you don't have chest pain." Like, just like going off about it. And when I came back to the room, she told me about that. And I'm like, "Oh, that's messed up." Like, I'm like clutching my chest, like, that's messed up. I'm fucking hurting. And it was like half hour later, and the doctor came in, and she looked like she saw a ghost. Like, she literally was like, you have a pulmonary embolism. Do you know what that is? And I was like, no. She's like, you have a blood clot in your lung, and we need to like rush you upstairs and blah, blah, blah. They hit me with Lovenox, which is like an extreme blood thinner. Like, it hits you immediately and like rushes through your body. It's such a crazy feeling. And yeah, it was like 3 inches from my heart. They said there's like a vein that goes up, and if it would have just taken like a different path, it would have just hit my heart and probably killed me while I was sleeping.
Holy
So they're in there talking shit about me, asking for pain meds, and meanwhile I almost died. And then I was there for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, somewhere in that range, and they wouldn't let me leave until I learned how to do the Lovenox injections myself. Like, I had to inject myself in the belly once a day, and then take warfarin, which is another blood thinner, for like a good 6 months after that. But they didn't. After the 2 weeks, they took a CT scan and they couldn't find it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, is it because of the massive amount of blood thinners you've given me? Maybe, like, did it move somewhere? And they're like, well, no. Maybe it was like a speck on the test. I was like, a speck on the test?
What?
Like, are we sure? Like, they eventually like confirmed it with like multiple doctors. Like, it's definitely a blood clot in my lung, but it was just like a, where the fuck did it go? Mystery. Nobody knew. And but they still had me on blood thinners and Lovenox. Lovenox was like 3 months, and blood thinners was like 6 months. I was going to the Coumadin clinic like once a week to check my blood levels. I mean, I'm like 19, right? I'm probably the youngest person by 30 years in there. It's like crazy, and I wasn't a smoker. I didn't even smoke weed at the time. Like, I hadn't smoked weed for 3 years at that point. I wasn't drinking at all. I stopped drinking at that point for a few years. Like, it had been 3 years since I drank. I didn't smoke cigarettes until I was after that, like, for like a stupid idiot. um
It
so
happened.
I had none of the like warning signs or like uh, symptoms of this happening. It just was like, boom, here it is. And
That's more.
yeah. And like you said, the lung doctor. So he's like, well, I don't really think you have asthma, like blowing into the thing, but like, we're just gonna put you on an inhaler just in case. And like, we're gonna put you on this. It was like the purple little circular disc thing.
Yep.
Like, oh, you gotta take this like twice a day. And like, I did it for a couple months, and it's just like, when I think back to it, it was probably me thinking about my intuition kicking in, like, and not even really knowing it, of being like, why are we doing this? We don't need this. Like, we're playing basketball. We don't need this. Like, it's like a crutch.
Yeah.
It becomes like, I'm having an anxiety attack. Maybe this is an asthma attack.
Exactly. Oh, that's what I'm noticing with myself. Like, after watching Dope Sick, I'm like calling every addiction that I'm recognizing in my mind Dope Sick. So I'll be like Dope Sick for my inhaler.
Mm,
I'm realizing like with the mind is like I'll be hearing my mind having a conversation with itself. It's like it's as though the inhaler, the addiction is talking. Like it's like I'll experience shortness of breath and I'll know that I have the ability to calm it down. I've done it before, but the addiction's like, just take one puff. This will all be over if you just take one puff. Like you know you want to. And when I think about it, like I didn't have asthma growing up. It was prescribed to me over the phone, like in college, like again, without really asking the situations. Like there was one point in college where I remember the campus was dry and we got weed like some pretty sketchy weed, and we were smoking it like just like we called it power smoking, like just like passable back and forth real
Mhm.
fast. Um and I and at the time, like this was in 2004, 2005. I didn't know anything about mold,
Mm.
blood rot. Like you know, weeds changed a lot.
A ton.
And my knowledge of it, like what to look for, has changed a lot. And so yeah, so um, I came down with I came down with a bronchial infection. At the time, I was also pretty addicted to Nyquil. What else was I doing? Like I was just overdoing it, and like
Mm.
sophomore in college, just kind of, crazy. Um,
Mhm.
and uh, and I was prescribed all at once. I was prescribed a Z-Pak, prednisone, and then inhaler, like the rescue inhaler and that round purple thing. And
Mm.
then that was it. Like from then on, I was like, oh, I guess I have asthma. But I don't think you really like get asthma like that. And I probably just needed to be told like get some sleep, have some herbal tea, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it became this mind, like my mind kept thinking anytime I was short of breath, my mind thought I needed it.
Yeah.
And it was only within the past like year or so, maybe 2 years, that I learned like I never learned how to breathe.
Mhm.
I never learned to breathe into my belly. My whole life I was breathing in my chest.
Same. Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that's like maybe start there, maybe start asking, do you know how to breathe
Yeah.
for real? Like just start there.
It's so true. Like breathing really changed a lot for me. Once I realized that there's like breathing techniques I can do that will can help a lot of things when I'm depressed, when I'm anxious, when my this morning for some like I slept like crap. Like I was telling you beforehand, like my fiance is a doula, so like I was on dad duties. My daughter was sad because mama wasn't sleeping next to us, and so it was like a whole thing. So we didn't sleep all night. Like she kept waking up, and then when she would wake up, I would wake up. Like I was on alert last night, so I didn't sleep good at all. And I forget where I was going with that because I'm a stoner brain.
We're talking about breathing techniques and
Oh,
this and
yeah, I went to go work out this morning, and I went on my Whoop app, which, like, I track my workouts with, like it tracks my sleep, and then it tracks my, like, fatigue and my recovery and all that stuff. So I went on it, and my heart rate, which is normally, like, resting at, like, 50 to 60, and it was, like, 98. And I
well,
was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Like, I wasn't breathing good through the night, I could tell, like, I wasn't sleeping good at all, like, I was very tense, I just yeah, like, I was waiting for her to come home, and then it was just a long, 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 long labor, so it's, it's been crazy, so it's rough.
yeah.
Um, so I woke up this morning, and when I was 98, I had to do breathing techniques, and what I do is just kind of like you said, I didn't learn how to breathe into my stomach until I learned how to like breathe.
Mhm.
And so that's what I do is like I'm getting in my head. What happens is like I'm not breathing right. I started feeling stuffy last night. I thought it was like the diffuser, but I don't know what it was, but something was making me feel stuffy last night. So I I like got up, turned off the diffuser, and was like, okay, maybe that'll help. And still felt stuffy. So like I just kind of when I breathe, I go but I feel it in my stomach. And
Mhm.
when I could feel it in my stomach, I get out of my head a little bit because I'm like, "Okay, stupid. Clearly you can breathe.
Yeah.
You could feel your stomach moving. Like, don't tell yourself you're not breathing." Like, my son does that sometimes. He has really bad anxiety attacks that he thinks are asthma attacks, and he'll be freaking out like, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Breathing, like taking big deep breaths in between, and I'm like watching him like, tell me more, like breathe with me, ready? And I like, it takes me like a few minutes, and he'll start doing it once it's been a few minutes, and I'm like, hey, it's been 10 minutes. Unless you're like a superhuman, you would be like passed out or dead right now, dude. Like, are you a superhuman and I don't know it? Like, he might like laugh, like,
Yeah.
and when so much of the time other people would just give him his inhaler,
Hmm.
and it becomes like a crutch.
It does. And that practice is so good. Like the mind, bringing the mindfulness to the body and just being like, wait, I am breathing. And
Hmm.
recognizing the messages, like our body's listening to everything we're telling it. So if we're saying I can't breathe, then the body's gonna be like, oh shit, like we can't breathe. But if we're like, wait, I am breathing, and just kind of slow down a bit. And it's these like basics that we just weren't taught.
Hmm.
Like food, like eating well, eating locally grown food. There are just so many things that could make us healthy, that could help our guts. Like we are just now learning about gut health. Like as a
Hmm.
society, it's like new to us now. Gut health, like the our inner landscapes, our terrain, and we're just learning that basically 2/3 of our immune system is based on our gut health. And this could have been helpful. And it
Yeah.
is helpful, like, if people are willing to open their minds, um, and it's not that much of a stretch either. Like, this all makes sense, and if people are willing to just, like, look into a little bit, we could really take back our power. Like, our health is everything, and
Hmm.
we get to decide what goes into our bodies. It's kinda like what we message a little bit on Instagram about what your trainer said to you
Yeah.
about, like, being picky, and I I am so discerning about what I put into my body, and especially within the past 2 years, because knowingly, uh, kind of being on my own here, like, being ostracized from a lot of society because of my personal decisions, like,
Hmm.
I have dedicated my life the past 2 years to making sure that I'm doing everything I can to optimize my immune system, which means, like, I won't even eat unnecessary sugar. I'll eat sugar that's in fruit, but other than that, I'm not eating unnecessary sugar knowing that it suppresses the immune system. And these are I don't expect everybody to do that. These are personal choices, and what I would love is for other people to start understanding that people who are working really hard on our gut health and our immune systems, like we deserve to be heard because
Hmm.
it's working. Like, I haven't been sick in 2 years. I haven't even so much as had a cold because I work really hard at this. So like
Hmm.
seeing Krispy Kreme giving out free donuts and like Shake Shack and all that, like, gimmicky stuff, like
So gross. Like, how are they gonna be like, oh, this is healthy, come get McDonald's? See, but right, I slipped up when I started working a full-time job. It kind of made me a little bit depressed, I can't lie. Like, when I first started working, I was like, it almost felt like admitting defeat. Like, my business isn't shut down, but it's just not doing enough to be able to do it full time. It's not providing for my family. I got to do something that's more sustainable and still build that. Like, it's not like it went away. Now it's just on top of it.
mhm,
And so I fuck, my fucking stupid stoner brain is like going crazy right now.
I get it.
What
That's
was I
why
just saying?
that's why I was like, "I better not get high," because
I had one too many dabs, I think. Or maybe not enough. What was I saying? Shit. Um, talking about breathing. We're talking about health, gut health. I know one of the thoughts I had in my head is that I really wish we could get to the core of um, why our gut health is so bad, which goes back to the way we farm everything mostly. Like
Yep.
most of the fruits and vegetables and food that we get are covered in pesticides or filled with hormones and things that just deplete it of the nutrients. And like the when you spray it with pesticides, you're killing off all of what would have been your probiotics that you're eating if you just didn't rinse it all the way off and ate a little bit of the dirt. Like,
Yep.
I feel healthiest when I'm farming, probably because when I'm farming, I honestly, you eat dirt. It
Yep.
just happens. It's swirling all around you. It ends up in your mouth. It's on your hands. You go to eat your sandwich. You don't fucking care because you're so hungry. You're like
Yep.
eating dirt. And I always feel so good in the summertime. It's always the winter time when, first of all, I'm weak. I'm weak sometimes, and like Thanksgiving, I'll give in and have a bunch of treats, and then a little bit after Thanksgiving, and then I always feel like crap.
Mhm.
So I slipped up when I started working full time, and I was eating steak and cheeses from the place next door like every day. Not only is some person I don't know handling that who
Yeah.
probably doesn't take care of themselves, and all right, like,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden I get COVID.
Yeah.
And it was bad, like, it was made me really tired. I'd say that's, like, the worst that happened. I didn't have any, like, really breathing issues crazy like that. I just was, like, sleeping, like, 9, 10 hours a night and then, like, sleeping 2-hour naps, 3-hour naps during the day and doing nothing in between, like, sitting on a couch just being like, "When's my next shot of elderberry?"
Yeah.
And I managed well, my girl managed to get some ivermectin,
Oh, nice.
and I didn't take any. I was the only one that didn't take any, but she did and her mom did, and they both, they got better quick. They had it, like, after me. I think I was the person who brought it all in, 'cause
Mhm.
I was feeling weird that whole week. Even my manager, like, I'm learning, like, the whole sales process, so we have to do role plays, and we're doing a role play on, like, I think it was Wednesday of that week when I first started feeling it, like, real bad, and he was like, "Are you alright?" I was like, "I didn't sleep good, like, at all last night, like, I'm so sorry, man," like, and I was like, "Today's a non-caffeine day," like, I try to only do caffeine, like, 3, maybe 4 days a week, like, I've flipped it now where it's like I'm trying to make it 4 days I don't have it, 3 days I do, so
Good for
which
you.
still seems like a lot to like, sometimes my fiance gives me shit, and I'm like, "Dude, come on, like, I used to drink, like, 3 of these a day." Like, I drink 1, and I'm like, "I'm good," and I found, like, the healthiest one. The only bad thing is there's some sucralose in it. Literally the only bad thing. Like, I wish I could write them a letter and be like, "Just put something else, anything else, like, please." That's, like, just as bad as high fructose corn syrup, but
They're
that
put
was the
what is that in?
sucralose. It's in the energy drink that I drink.
Oh, energy drink, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the caffeine that because I was, like, drinking coffee, my teeth were getting really yellow because I drink my coffee black,
Yep.
and I don't know. So I was drinking, like, what, 32 ounces of coffee a day, something like that, all way too much. So it was probably like if a cup of coffee is what, like 100 milligrams of caffeine. So I'm drinking like 400 milligrams. My energy drink's like 120, I think, 150, somewhere around there. And it's filled with like, it has like vitamin C, camu, like electrolytes, stuff like that. So like, when I drink it, I've always been the type of person that when I have caffeine, I just can sleep right after. Like,
Wow.
it doesn't really yeah, it doesn't usually affect me. Once in a while, it'll make me, like, jittery and I can't sleep, but majority of the time, I could just drink it and go to sleep. But, like, the other vitamins in it, I swear, like, I wanna write them a letter and be like, "Can you make, like, a non-caffeine version too? Because like,
I
that would
think
be fire."
I think that's a good idea to write them a letter. And
Yeah,
also, like, just couldn't help but notice, like, you read the label, which is also something that's new for us.
right.
Reading
Yeah.
and be like, "What is this?" Like, I just learned this year that red 40 is petroleum.
Mhm.
And like I remember last time I was at my parents' house seeing red 40 in the salad dressing. And what, like why weren't we taught this? I mean, obviously we know why. Um,
Mhm.
where the system's corrupt and
Were
there's
you sick a lot as a kid too? Like, I feel like I always had a stomach ache, and I don't know, my dad used to call me a hypochondriac, but I, like, legitimately did not feel good all the time.
interesting. I wasn't sick a lot. I stayed away from dairy because I thought I was lactose intolerant. That's
Mm,
when I would get sick. Um, so that helped, and I generally liked healthy foods as a kid. Like I loved broccoli and um, but I also am just learning now that I'm might not be lactose intolerant. It might just be the cows that like apparently there's a cow like that is called the Jersey cow, and our bodies can digest the enzymes from that cow. So yeah,
really?
yeah.
Is it you have to drink it raw, or can you do it does it still get pasteurized?
Well, the farm where we get it, they sell it raw.
We've
Yeah.
been wanting to try raw milk. Well, my girl more, and I'm like, because 'cause I've never really been a huge fan of milk ever really in my life. Like, again, it always gave me, like, bubble gut,
Yeah.
and, like, I wasn't lactose, but I always was like, "Ooh, that's why am I so bloated right now?" And, so I really limited my consumption of it as well growing up, because every time I ate it, it would just made me feel like dog shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always shocked that not everybody was allergic to dairy. It was always I always found it shocking, like, how everybody could just drink milk and eat pizza and be fine. So that was, like, the only things that really bothered me as a kid, but I was always really highly sensitive to, like, chemicals and, like, perfumes always cause issues for me, just not, they wouldn't make me sick, but I'd always be, like, really distracted and,
Mhm.
like, hyper focused on the smell and trying to avoid it.
A lot of the lights in the stores bother me like that, like, smells some smells do, but, like, lights in the stores, it's just like, if I'm in there for too long, I get a migraine.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's I mean, I think, a lot of us probably have more extrasensory gifts than we're aware, and when we start, like, bringing awareness to what is causing our energy to dip, whether it's like that, like getting a headache or a migraine or just like distraction, like if like in the case of a perfume being too overwhelming or just like these like minor things. Like when we look at them and evaluate, we can see like these are actually gifts. Like we're we can look deeper into them and use them to help purify our environments and purify what we surround ourselves with so that we can access our full engagement or our full capacity, um, and navigate from that place instead of always having to like tolerate something. Like when we're tolerating, we're not accessing our full capacity for engagement.
Mhm. Yeah, when you have to be able to draw healthy lines, and, like, in order to be able to do that, sometimes you have to learn how to do that. And
Yeah.
you have to learn what your lines even are. Sometimes people, like, cross a line, and you're like, "Hmm, like, I didn't know that bothered me like that."
Yep. Yeah.
And, as you go it goes one of 2 ways, right? Like, some people, it's really hard when they start looking inward, and, like, it's a lot of emotions, it's definitely a lot of emotions, especially when you, like, microdose with mushrooms. When I first was doing it, there was times I would be just laying next like, we'd have the baby next to us, and my fiancée, they'd be sleeping for no reason. I'm just, like, going through this memory of how I was an asshole when I was 8 years old, and, like, just, like, "Why was I such an asshole?" And then I was the same thing here, and the same thing here, and the same thing here, and it's like, you're like going through these patterns in life, like, why am I like this? Like,
Yeah.
it's literally like, it's so, I don't,
Yeah.
it's disturbing at times. Like, you're literally like, who the fuck am I? Why am I doing these things? How
Yeah.
do I stop it? And then like then you start, when you do it and you like realize you do it right after, and you're like, oh fuck, I just did that thing again. And then you do it and realize you do it while you're doing it, and then they're like, just, and then just try to like stop doing it from there. But
Yeah.
it's so hard as humans to not just like react with anger. I feel like, especially when, like, my whole life has been a freaking struggle. Like, there's only been a couple of years I could think of my life that I've been like not struggling with money and stuff, and like, just it's crazy. So, hey, what's up, Stars Podcast? What's up, Ron and or Alyssa? um. So yeah, I've always struggled. So it's like, I've s- I feel like, since I watched my parents struggle, they were always angry people,
Mhm.
especially when they were like together, when up until I was 6. Very, 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 very angry people. And then in their relationships, anger, 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 and that shit just like passes on to me. And it's it was no good. Like, every time I'm angry now, it's like, it's sometimes I feel like I'm like schizophrenic or something, because it's like I have these conversations in my head. It's like I'll be driving on the road, and like, my fiance has pointed out a lot. And I'm trying to be a lot better with it, about not like flipping out on people on the road, because I like,
Mhm.
just, I don't know. I've gotten into accidents all because of other people, and I
Mhm.
just don't trust people on the road. So I'm like, just get out of my way. Let me get in front of you. That's all I want to do. Like, get away from me.
Mhm.
But like, I'm just like, today somebody cut me off, and I just kind of was like, whatever. And I'm just listening to my podcast, just like
Yeah.
drinking my little energy drink, just like minding. I just didn't even care. But like, so many other times, it's just like, what the fuck, like, for no reason. And
Yep.
then I do it, and I'm like, why do I do that? Why do I react that way? Like, literally, like, talking to myself, like, why do I do the things I'm doing?
Those those conversations are helpful, like, they interrupt the pattern. Like, the
Hmm.
pattern, for example, like, going back to what you were saying about watching your parents fight, like,
Hmm.
that then, like, what that tells your developing brain is, "Oh, that's normal," and that becomes the pathway in your brain that you're used to, and becomes your pathway. Like, about 90% of our patterns and behaviors are determined by the time we're 7 or 8 years old, because our brains are like hard drives, and we're downloading, and then, like, it's like every anything else, like, my iPhone, like, if I'm, filming everything I'm doing, then it gets full, and then I'll delete a couple things, and maybe I'll free up, like, a little bit of space. And same thing with our brains, like,
Hmm.
90% of the hard drive's full, and that becomes our subconscious, and that's just on autopilot. And then the 10% is, what we where we use our conscious mind, and we think that we're using free will, free choice, but that 90% is determining our patterns for us. So those moments where we are pausing and going, "Why do I do this?" And
Hmm.
and I do find that the why, um, that, like, this is why I love the work I do, because I get to hold space for those moments of evaluating our patterns. Like, I get to hold space for someone who might be revisiting a painful memory, or like, revisiting a time where they might be judging themselves, and I get to hold space for that and being like, it's literally just a pattern.
Hmm.
The human wants to attach judgment and call it a bad pattern, but it's really just a pattern that's deeply ingrained. And until we do this kind of work where we can evaluate, like, it's just, in the subconscious mind. And now we're bringing awareness to it. So moving it to the conscious mind. And then we could look at it and be like, should we click and drag it to the trash can?
Hmm.
you know, and but I do find it's helpful, um, you know, when the why comes up, like, why am I like this? To just kind of be like, doesn't matter why, you just are. You know, what do you want to do about it though? Like, what do you want to be like going forward? Um,
Mm,
and and start working with that, and then seeing like what gets in the way. It's like, oh, this trigger gets in the way, and you know, this pattern, like the just like recognizing what gets in the way, and what can we do. Like driving is such a common place where people experience stress. So even being able to just be like, whatever, like that's huge. Like that is a shift. Um,
yeah.
something that I'll play with, like with my partner when he's driving. If someone's driving like recklessly or something, and we're both like both of our instincts are to judge, but I'll just kind of play with him like, well, maybe they really have to pee. Or maybe his wife's in labor and he really needs to get to the hospital. Just making up my own interpretations that I know will elicit feelings of compassion for them, because that feels better than judgment. Like doesn't
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't matter if my interpretations are true or not. If I'm feeling better, that's all that matters. Like if my nervous system is feeling better, like that's what we have control over, our own nervous systems. And yeah, and it takes a lot of practice, but it's totally worth it to like, yeah.
Continued practice.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it just never stops, you know, like that's why like I'm going back to how I was saying is people think I have this like how holier than thou attitude. It's like, no, I don't. I'm just spurting out what I'm learning about me. And if it pertains to you, great. If it doesn't pertain to you, great. Like if you could teach me something, even better. You know, like I'm always down to learn.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just some people like I'll never understand how people trust doctors. After maybe it's because of like my experience and like your experience that we don't really trust them, and because we know like where they're getting taught from.
Yeah.
It's leadership is always top down. So if big pharma is not good, then what they're teaching them is probably not good.
Yeah.
um,
Every
so it
everyone just needs to watch Dope Sick and see see
I
how
know, like,
um,
I gotta get Hulu, like, I gotta freaking watch that now.
it's worth it for this one show, and then you can cancel it. Um, like, it is so worth it because you see how big pharma works.
Mm,
I remember, like, I used to work in a doctor's office, and, like, when I was a teenager, my mom was a nurse, is a nurse, she still is a nurse, um, and is really, like, believes in what she was taught, which is why I was prescribed pharma so early. Like pharma was the answer to everything. Like when I was a teenager and had cramps, I was prescribed birth control. When
mm,
now knowing how there's this CBD that I use that just like it gets the job done. If that was an option as a teenager, not only would it have saved me a lot of money because prescriptions are expensive, but just like so many other side effects of birth control, like probably would have,
mhm,
yeah, like it just like messes with women's hormones and um but yeah, I remember working in the doctor's office, and I remember it was when pharma reps would come in and they would schmooze and they would bring lunches. Like I remember they'd bring lunches from Bertucci's and they would call and ask what I wanted, and I felt so special. And we
mhm,
all love them. They're charismatic. Like, you know, what's not to love? Like charismatic people. And then the doctor would come in and we would see them like turn on and like sell their drug, and the doctor would kind of like shovel food in his mouth and be like, okay, 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 yep, do you have samples? Okay. And then leave and go to his patients. And so I saw how that was done. And um I just like remember this one sample. I used to I used to steal from the closet there because it was like it was a muscle relaxer. Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
I was like, this one's good. It was a good one. But yeah, like I it was discontinued. I was like, no, it's my favorite.
That's my favorite one, don't take it away.
So bad. But I saw how it worked. And looking back, like I it's like a club or something.
Mm.
Um, it's just kind of weird. It was just so weird, like thinking about it.
Yeah, like, the fact that not many doctors know what an endocannabinoid system, like, should
Mhm.
tell you everything you need to know. It's, like, one of the most important physiological systems in our whole entire body, and we don't know our all of our medical professionals don't really know anything about it. Like, a very small percentage are, like, nurses that are cannabis, educated.
You just reminded me of something too that like why just this the journey of cannabis and the stigma around cannabis that like ever since 1936 when I think that's when Reefer Madness came out.
Mhm.
Um, and cannabis was stigmatized and like we as a cannabis community have been working so hard. Like when I was with Women Grow, I remember going to Women Grow events and we were working so hard to end the stigma. And now I'm watching, like you mentioned ivermectin earlier, and you can attest to its efficacy. Like it
Mhm.
worked. And it works. Like I'm watching ivermectin go through the same journey that cannabis went through with reefer madness. Like
Yeah. Yeah, it wins a Nobel Peace Prize and has been used safely for, like, 30 plus years, 40 years,
yeah,
and all of a sudden, it's bad.
and people are buying it. People are eating up the propaganda against it, just
Mhm.
like my grandma did with reefer madness. And I think about what that like when my grandma experiences pain and I want to give her weed and she's like, "Oh, it's so bad." No. I'm like, man, like I don't think there's changing that. Like that's pretty ingrained. And I have compassion because she grew up with reefer madness was it. And it took two generations to I think I can say to defeat the stigma. I think we're there. No. Never mind.
No.
Just
Yeah, like, so when I had my mall kiosk, right, like, I had 2 different stigmas that I was against for selling CBD, right? The first stigma was the people that stuck their nose at me and basically were like, "The devil's lettuce, like, I can't believe you're selling weed in the mall, I can't believe they allow that here." And
the
then
devil's lettuce.
yeah,
I forgot.
and and then the other side is actually from people who smoke weed, and they're like, "Pff, I don't need diet weed. What do I need that for?" And I'm like, If you're calling it diet weed, you clearly don't understand." I was okay, for an example, right? For any weed smokers that are out there that think that CBD is like diet weed, right? All I want you to do is take like 60 milligrams of CBD an hour before you smoke, and then come back to me and tell me how that effective that smoke is for you.
Mhm, mhm.
Or mix in some CBD hemp flower into your regular THC flower and mix, even if it's not 1 to 1, even if you do, like, 3 parts THC, 1 part CBD hemp, the effect you get is so much better, so much fuller. It's
Yeah.
because it's how it's supposed to be. I really feel like what they did is, like, before Reefer Madness, it was like we had hemp.
Mhm.
And then it was like they separated it at some point and just like it became just about the THC, and then just became about CBD. It's like it's all cannabis. Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's our
Um,
plant. It's our plant ally.
Sorry, Ron. I don't know what my Nightbot is doing. I haven't really programmed it, and apparently it's yelling at you. Sorry. Oh man. But Reefer Madness really the part that frustrates me about it is that like the full history doesn't really ever get told, right? So
Right.
we always talk about 1936 because that is when like Reefer Madness really started. But whenever anything starts, you got to keep looking back.
Mhm.
And it was like 1910 to 1913, somewhere in that range, where Massachusetts actually banned Indian hemp. That was the first thing that happened. They were the first state to ban any kind of cannabis. And then all of a sudden a bunch of other states followed, and what, 22 years later, it was all legal. And like there was definitely a lot of those farms that they say like slaves were picking cotton or whatever. I think there was a lot of hemp fields,
Mhm.
and like it just makes so much damn sense, honestly. Like we built ships out of it and sails and canvas. Where do you think the word canvas comes from? Cannabis. Like it literally was made from hemp first. We fed animals with it. We literally like it because we fed our animals with it. We then ate the meat and we got the cannabinoids into our system too, and all the other amino acids and everything that are within the hemp. And then all of a sudden, it becomes illegal. Big pharma takes a firm hold. Deforestation starts happening. Nylon and plastics and all these things that are petrochemical runoffs start happening, and they demonize the one plant that could replace all that bad shit.
All of it. Even the flame retardant materials that children's pajamas are dipped in, the chemicals that children's pajamas now.
hmm
Like the toxic chemicals. Hemp is also fire resistant. So we could have just had hemp pajamas, hemp clothing all along,
Yep.
hemp housing. But like as you were kind of like painting the pictures, going back to what you were saying about connecting the dots. And it's just cannabis is the uh, first like pinpoint that taught me how to follow the money. Um, like okay, lumber industry, okay, like just like following the money, like working backwards and going back to like arguing with people. I also just stopped arguing with people, but once in a while I will just say, just follow the money. Like you don't need to take my word for it. Just follow the money. It's all there. Like if you're willing to do that, some heroes are gonna have to fall from the pedestals, but follow the money. Like
Yep.
what do you see? It all goes back to pharma. It all goes back to petroleum. All those glyphosate, those leftover war chemicals. I just
Yeah, they rebrand these chemicals that are banned and just use them again. Ta-da! It's
yeah
it's not the same, guys. We swear.
yeah
And meanwhile, that's like killing all of our soil, which is making it so more CO2 is in the atmosphere because the soil isn't sequestering carbon the way it's supposed to.
Mhm.
It's all cyclical. Like all the problems with the earth come from like five different industries, and like those five industries can all be replaced by hemp
Yep.
and like bamboo.
And have assistant phytoremediation. It
hmm
wants to clean the soil.
Yep.
Like it just wants to grow.
The nastiest of chemicals too. The nastiest. Like they do the PFAS. PFAS is like the waterproofing and like um what's on like a lot of non-stick pans is like
Oh,
PFAS. That's why they say not to cook with it because it's really bad. So what happened in like paper plates, a lot of to-go containers, PFAS is like everywhere. And what happens is like whatever it's in breaks down, but then the PFAS is released into the soil and then eventually gets into the groundwater. And they say that that PFAS is in 99% of all Americans' bloodstream, which basically just is the nice way of saying we all got it in our bloodstream thanks to them. Um,
Yeah.
so hemp happen like not only does growing it, you can suck up those PFAS into the hemp, but you can also grind up the hemp and put it into like runoff water, and like you could filter runoff water through the hemp with some carbon and some diatomaceous earth, just kind of like filtering right through natural substances and come out the other end 98% clear of PFAS.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Cool. Dude,
it's crazy.
the solutions are here. I just we need to come together and implement them. Like we could all be doing this.
Yeah, like we presented this to the city where I live in, to the mayor, and they love it, and they're like, "Oh, well, where's the money coming from?" And I was like, "I thought that would be you guys, you know,
Right.
like we're trying to solve a major issue that's like hurting your citizens. You can be like a hero, like, oh my God, be a hero. I
So we're
don't care.
gonna send
Take
it to them.
take credit for it. I'm gonna be documenting it, and everybody's gonna know I did it. Good luck, whatever."
Yep.
You know, like I don't care about the credit. I just want to help the planet. And so now like we're trying to figure out how to get grants, and it's
Cool.
not very easy because it's like we're not we're not like we're just such a complicated business because hemp is still considered a cannabis business, and so much changes when you're a cannabis business. You have so many more restrictions, and people look at you a different way. And like I almost like I preach hemp, but if people have noticed, I've kind of shifted and talked more about carbon farming, and
Mm,
then kind of the hemp is the plant I use for my carbon farming mostly, but it's not the only thing. Like it's a whole comprehensive approach because I'll get to that in a second, but I've been switching to saying I carbon farm now because when people hear that, they're like, "Carbon farming? What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, I literally take CO2 from the air. You know how we have greenhouse gases, and it's making our planet heat up, and it's causing polar ice caps to melt. Supposedly, like all this stuff that's happening, it could sequester that into the soil. Ta-da! And then not only that." Then everything you use from the fiber is going to continue to sequester carbon. Oh, by the way, concrete is like the largest CO2 emitting industry in the world. And if we just replace that one industry, we could probably cut like a third of our emissions down. Like,
mhm.
and it's not mind boggling because, like you said, follow the money. And the
Yeah.
money always leads to like 5 different industries, like I said, that can all be replaced by hemp.
Yep. Yep. And they pay the media. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, I
Uh,
have just a green screen on here. Chaotic, refresh your screen, bro, because I'm watching Twitch on my phone and I see the video. Refresh your screen and then share it, you know? But that's like one of my main things that I try to do is try to destigmatize cannabis. Like when people start talking about drinking and stuff, like I don't get offended. Once in a while, I'll have a drink. Like I'm not like vehemently against like, oh my God, you drink, get away from me. But it's
mhm.
just like when people start drinking, I just chime in like, oh yeah, like I'll definitely be bringing the smoke with me, you know, like and they like laugh and stuff like just trying to like make it normal part of conversation like anytime that they're talking about like VCon, right, this whole Gary V NFT thing, where they're all talking about going out and this bar and like I'm like, well, as long as there's some smoker friendly bars that don't care that I'm burning it down in the back of their bar, I'm with it. You know, like we could have a night or two of that. Like I don't know. I know again, like treating your body good. I know alcohol is horrible. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible for your body.
Yeah.
Um, it just I could feel it when I drink it. Again, like drinking milk back in the day, just like bloated feeling, burping a lot, just
Mhm.
ugh, ugh, and just it's like you could feel it doing bad things to you.
Yep. I'll still have still have one or two, like one or two beers, one or two glasses of wine, but I use the same approach. I have the same approach that I do with my medicine. Like by medicine, I mean cannabis or psilocybin or cacao, my plant medicines. I look at it like a plant. I'm like, all right, I'm going to invite the hops plant into my body and make sure I choose a, a brewery that I trust and a local brewery. I'm gonna check out where their hops are grown. And with wine, where are these grapes coming from and what are the grapes like? Like I because of having gone through the process of purifying my body and getting to know it so well, I know the sentience that enters my body. So, like, I've been sipping on cacao,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I know her. I know that, I know who she is. Cannabis, like, oh my gosh, do I know her? Like, oh my goodness, is she her own being? And I remember this kind of got inspired to take it to that level listening to Terrence McKenna YouTube where he was talking about the voice of the mushroom. And he was like, this is an ancient galactic being. He said something, he's like, it's 1 billion years old. It's seen 150,000 civilizations. And ever since listening to that, I was like, whoa, we're pretty new on the planet compared to these plants.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get out of the way and let them come through. And so ever since taking that approach, like I began that a few years ago, really the first time I had my first experience growing cannabis and sitting with it and looking at it growing. I remember like looking at it while I was smoking a joint and being like, are you listening to me? Like you're listening to me. And then I'm like, all right, well, here's what I've got going on if you want to, be the medicine for these things. But yeah, just like really getting clear on like clearing the space, quieting my mind so I can hear the plant speak. And so then when it comes to drinking, I'll take the same approach and just make it a more ceremonial event. Like really I think mindfulness could just really balance us all out. Like if we just bring mindfulness, like even with cannabis, like don't we want to know who's growing our plants?
I do.
Like, right? Like I don't know. I stopped getting weed from the dispensary because I noticed I wasn't really getting high. I was just getting kind of like dull, like kind of disconnected, but I wasn't getting what I know that I'm capable of, like what I enjoy connecting with cannabis for is this like opening of the crown chakra and like receiving information, like my like creative downloads will come and if I'm smart I'll write them down and but with dispensary weed it'd just be like this dull kind of like block and I'm like, well, I guess I can't do anything but eat and sit on the couch.
Might as well just do nothing, I guess.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean,
well, what people don't know is a lot of these dispensaries are doing some shady shit. Like one of the practices that dispensaries are doing is that they're literally spraying the bud with like pure THC. So they're upping the THC amounts within the bud and just cheating their way to it. So it's basically like spraying like liquid keef essentially on it. So they're adding THC to it. The other thing they're doing is while it's growing, they're spraying all kinds of nasty pesticides and chemicals, even though they're not supposed to. And they're just doing what they want because these people have all of the government in their back pocket because like I don't know, 75 to 80 to 90 maybe percent of the dispensaries are all just like Canadian conglomerate companies. They're they like front as local companies, but if you really follow the money, it all leads to like big Canada companies.
What? 70 to 90%?
Yeah, it's high.
Whoa.
Yeah, like Curaleaf, I think even Netta, all the big ones around here. Like there's obviously great ones. Like we have Caroline's Cannabis and I can't think of any more. I'm like way too brain dead to think of, but there's like 10 to 20 dispensaries that are owned by people like us, and then the rest are like them.
Mhm. And that just like I hope if there's one thing people get out of tonight's podcast is, have the desire to know where it's coming from, whatever you're putting in your body. Like follow the money and then decide and objectively evaluate, do I want to put Curaleaf product in my body knowing this? Like it's more like it's everybody's choice. Like I believe in choice, like across the board. We're autonomous beings.
Hmm.
This is a choose your own adventure life. Like just like knowing this, like, again, none of this is far fetched. It's pretty, evident if you just look. Like even just looking at like certain dispensary weed, like it's just like, okay, this it doesn't look like what my buddy's growing.
Yeah.
Just look and be curious and pay attention. Like what happens when you smoke Netta bud versus, I hope I'm not like offending anyone. If any homies out there work there, I know that there are bridges everywhere, and there are people who care
Hmm.
everywhere. But I mean, I like what I do regularly, like as my soulpreneurship journey. I facilitate ceremony with different
Mm.
plant medicines, so it's just so near and dear to my heart. Like it's what I'm passionate about, and when we sit in ceremony with these different plants, we can hear, like, we can hear them speak. We can feel their sentience. Like we can
Mm.
exchange information with them, and they have so much to tell us. And they have seen 150,000 civilizations. They know how to evolve us. They know how to help us reach the next stage of our evolution.
Mm.
And if we're yeah, if we're not discerning with what we're choosing, uh, we're gonna just yeah be dull to it. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think so many are like trained to be dull to it. Like you just are made to not think about the bad stuff. Like you just like people will I'm going through like this class, this like final training class for my job, and the trainer's talking about how he doesn't feel good, and I'm like, bud, I've seen you drink like six Diet Cokes since you've been here, like in the past couple days. Yeah. So what? There's no sugar in it. I'm like, all
That
right.
seems pretty bad.
I'm like, come on, man. Like, it feels like at this stage in life, we all know that's bad for us. Like, why are we just ignoring that and just being like, it tastes good to me? Why are we I like to say like, people are a slave to their taste buds.
Mhm.
And I'm the same way. Like, trust me, y'all. Oh my God, I love Kit Kats. I love brownies. I really
What
do.
you do
And
with the cats, like that's your thing.
yeah, I've said it like 3 times. Huh? I miss them. Like it. I know. Like I'm like getting like this extra saliva in my mouth because it's like, oh yes, that sounds good. Give it to me. Give it to your bad part of your brain. Like,
Not the voice though, like that's the key. You like that voice that you just made for like the Kit Kat voice. Like that's different from your like, soul voice, like your discerning voice. Like
yeah.
that's how we know, like the addicted voice, like it sounds different. It's like, yeah, give it to me. Like like when my brain wants me to use my inhaler, it's like, oh, just take one puff, like this
Just do
little
it. Just take a puff.
yeah, it's like a gremlin. Like, get out of here.
My friend Ron, a different friend Ron than the one that's in here right now. He, how does he describe it? Fuck. How does he describe it? He has he calls it the drunk monkey.
Oh, that's
That's what he calls it. And he locks away his drunk monkey. So he literally, like, when he has bad thoughts, he like pictures that as the drunk monkey. He's like, "Go away, drunk monkey. Go to your cage." Like it's like the same thing as the little gremlin in your head. Like, "Oh, eat that Kit Kat. You know you want it."
Oh, yep, and being able to like have that conversation with it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not perfect. If sometimes if it's there, I can't do it. But like, I'll go a whole month. I did a whole month with no sugar, and I did the only type of sugar things I did was obviously fruit, honey, and maple syrup. Because maple syrup and honey are like the only things that are low enough on the glycemic index to make me, and they're very natural. Like, obviously, maple syrup is processed a little bit. It's just kind of like, I think it's just cooked, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I don't know how to make maple syrup, but honey is just as is, if you're doing it right.
Honey, depending on, again, everything's like depending on where we get it from.
Mm-hmm.
Honey is really, really good for you.
Yeah, I cringe when I go to my mom's and she just has some random store-bought honey, like just no source to it, no anything, like, "Ugh."
It's tough. And I was reflecting on this recently with some friends. Like our parents' generation, they make their purchasing decisions based on what they see in commercials, like Folgers coffee, Progresso chicken soup, like
Yep.
the like Glide or whatever was the laundry detergent, Glad or whatever. Um, and like again, like follow the money. If there's a commercial, probably don't get it. Like you might want to do a little deeper research and find other options. But going back to what you were saying about um, your coworker, your colleague in the training, who's drinking the Diet Coke, like I think that part of why it seems like so many people don't care is because it can be so overwhelming. And to be like, well, like where to even begin? Like,
I definitely have some empathy for that and sympathy for that.
yeah, like it could be real tough. Like when I think of where I first began, it was like quitting Tylenol, and then quitting Adderall, and then everything kind of from there. Like then alcohol, and then
Yep.
and it kind of like
Baby steps.
exactly, like just like pick one, start somewhere. I know, like, I can be really intense because I am such a sensitive being. So when I'm at my parents' house and I see that all their food is Monsanto products,
Mhm.
like, I'll, like, malfunction. Like, I'm like, "Does not compute, like, like, why? Why?" Like, if you love I'll think, like, they don't love me because they're still stocking their house with all of Monsanto after everything I've shared and all the documentaries I've shared. And obviously it's not that I am not loved or cared for. It's just overwhelming. Like
It feels that way because it's like, okay, I've been on this journey. You've seen me go from complaining about being sick all the time and hurting all the time. I mean, I'm still in daily pain, but it was different back then. Headaches, like literally daily headaches, migraines, like it was awful, awful. And everybody just kind of treated it like it was normal. Like, oh, there goes Adam popping more Excedrin. Like nobody even thinks about it. Like, uh, I really should have listened to him, and he was totally right. I saw one uh brain doctor. Can't think of what the name is for it right now. My brain is not that smart, but not right now at least. Too late in the day, too many hours into the day. But I went to go see a doctor for my headaches, and he said, "Hey, bud, maybe part of your problem is that you take so much Excedrin in a day. Like each one of those is like 2 cups of coffee worth of caffeine, and you're telling me that you drink Mountain Dew and you drink coffee and you drink energy drinks. He's like, maybe you're just overloaded on caffeine, and then the next day, because you're so overloaded on caffeine, your body's like, where's my caffeine? And you're getting a rebound headache immediately. And I'm like, he's like, you're addicted to your Excedrin. I'm like, addicted to my Excedrin. It's fucking over the counter medic. Like, I'm addicted to my Excedrin. Are you kidding me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was so mad. And then, you know, like that should be the first sign of like, yeah, I totally was addicted to my Excedrin.
Yep, that is like that's the addicted voice. The voice that's mad, like who can't doesn't want to listen. It's like it's like Stockholm syndrome. Like it kind of reminds me of when I was taking Adderall, I was taking 90 milligrams a day, and everybody like yeah, and everybody treated that like it was normal. Because I was working during full time during the day and then going to law school at night, like 6 to 10 p.m. So I'd have, 30 milligrams in the morning, another 30 milligrams at noon, and then another 30 milligrams at like 5:30 to get ready to go to law school. Wow. And yeah, and like, and I had never been more celebrated in my life. At work, I was being promoted and getting bigger bonuses and
that shit works, you know, like it, but it's really not good for you. It's like one ingredient away from meth.
Yep. And then and that was the voice. Like I remember usually at work on Fridays, we wouldn't my work would usually be done for the most part on Thursdays. And then it'd just be like cleaning up. Like I worked in commercial real estate, and usually we had the deals off my desk by Thursday. Everything was wrapped up. And I remember there was like one Thursday night where I was like, you have nothing due tomorrow. Do not take Adderall. Like you get through the day without taking Adderall. And I got to work and I heard like the voice, the addicted voice being like, well, I want it. And I was like, no, you can't have it. And it was like, fine, then I'm going to be a bitch to everyone until I take it. And then I was like, all right, fine, you can have your Adderall. And that's when actually that was the day that I noticed. I was like, wow, I have a problem. And I was like, fuck this. And fortunately, I think it was Patriot Care had just opened up downstairs from where I worked on Milk Street. And I went down the stairs to Patriot Care. So this dispensary actually saved me. So I take back everything I said. But I went downstairs and I told the dude working at the dispensary, I was like, here's what I'm going through. And he was like, I got just the thing. And he gave me a 1-to-1 CBD THC tincture. And I just like went back upstairs, put the tincture in my tea, drank it. And I just started doing the things on my to-do list. Like, well, I'll just do this one, then I'll do the next one. And I was totally chill about it. And it like that day I quit Adderall thanks to that.
Just like cold turkey?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I don't know if it counts as cold turkey when it's like replaced with tincture, but yeah.
Way different. You're going from a chemical to a plant medicine.
That's true. Yeah. And I just was like that's when my health and wellness trajectory really took off. Just my path to natural plant medicines, because I heard that addiction. I was like, that's scary. That's like real scary that I don't have control over this. And that I'm going to be a bitch to everyone until I have my drug. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, and then so many people are on so many, right? Like there's people that are addicted to cigarettes and addicted to drinking and addicted to like sugar. Like everybody, there's so many people that are just addicted to so many things,
Yep.
and like I'm like I'm like a recovering addict from all those things, and like I relapse. That's how it feels like when I have like bad sugary shit. I'm like, oh, I'm like being a drug addict right now. Like that's how it feels. Like this shit really is so addictive. Like I've never been like, oh my god, I just want weed. Like looking at it, like I can be without it if I need to be. Like if I know that I'm in a situation where I can't be too stoned, I can just like I'm cool.
Yeah, yeah,
But with sugar, it's like, you know, it's looking at me. Like
yeah.
it wants me to eat it. Like
Yeah.
who else is gonna? It's been sitting there for 4 days. Who's gonna eat it? Come on, Adam. You can eat it. Like you got this. You haven't 4 days. You looked at it. You didn't eat it for 4 days. Why don't you just eat it? It's like,
Yeah,
like
the beautiful thing is that you can hear that though. Like you can hear that stream of like the messaging, like the lies that it's telling you.
yeah.
Like and then from there it's a choice. Like when you can hear it and discern, like that's not me, that's the sugar talking. That that's the
Mhm.
addiction talking to me. Like that's when you're for the most part in the clear. Like even if you do fuck like if you do goof and have some sugar, like at least like that was the voice of the sugar addiction. Whereas I think that's where it's the hardest to like hold up the mirror to people and be like that's that I don't think that's you. Like even people who are addicted to the news, if I challenge their news watching, I'll be like the like retaliation. I'm like, I don't think like you want to be that angry at me. I think I don't say this, but it's like I think you're addicted to the news because that was pretty irrational.
Hmm.
Like like for like what I was like this happened recently. I was explaining the like what I do with energy leadership. It's based on this modality that there are seven levels of energy, levels 1 through 7, and level 1 is the most contracted. Level 7 is the most expanded, and we kind of like expand and contract through life through these levels of energy. And I was explaining the influence that the news has energetically on us, um, and so what I was noticing, I was like, yeah, people watch the news and either it's overwhelming and just so full of like doom and
Doom and gloom. Yeah.
doom that people feel level 1. Like level 1 is victim, is apathy, is why bother? We're all doomed anyways, so nothing I do matters. That's level 1. And then the other thing I was noticing is people getting angry at the politicians on the news and like yelling at the TV. And anger is level 2. It's a bit more energy than level 1, but it's still probably not the most proactive. And so I was explaining this to someone, and I was like, if level 3 would be asking ourselves, okay, that's going on. Well, what do I want to do about it? And organize, mobilize, take responsibility. That would be the next. That would be we would cross the threshold from what we call catabolic energy, meaning destructive, injuring, and into anabolic, which is healing, growth oriented.
Mm.
So I was just explaining that, and the reaction to the person that I was explaining it to is almost as though they're like, "Fuck you! Don't take my news." Um, like they're like they're like, "Well, I have a responsibility to watch the news," and I
To
was
who?
I was like, "Well, okay, so then what do you do, like with the responsibility?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "You watch the news, you take it in, and then what?"
Mm.
And that's where they got upset because that was a challenge. And I was like, "See, like we don't really do. We just take it in and sit there. We dwell in those two energies. We're either victims or angry, and we don't really. And that's right where they want us, addicted.
Mm. Addicted, angry, and scared. It's like the worst combination ever, especially these stupid things. Like I get there was one night that I was just like, I'm not bringing my phone downstairs to, like, I usually bring my phone and like play a podcast in the shower. I'm like, I'm not bringing it with me. Like I don't need this thing with me everywhere I go. Fuck this thing. I get downstairs and I'm emptying out my pockets before I like get undressed to go to the shower, and I'm like, what the how the fuck did my phone end up in my pocket? Like I literally like subconsciously just put my phone in my pocket without even really thinking about it. And I just was like, "Oh, you fucking leech." Like I said it out loud and like put it on the sink. I was like, "Fine." Like whatever. Like it just feels so gross sometimes.
Yep, good for you. And it's gonna get even harder now that the QR codes are required everywhere.
Oh
Like
my god.
that's actually motivation for me to wean myself off of my phone, because I want to be able to go out and be like, well, I don't bring my phone with me, so can't scan it. Sorry, like you're gonna have to give me a paper menu. You know,
Oh my god.
go back
The
to basics.
I mean, I thought you were talking about the QR codes that they're trying to make people put on their phones for the vaccine.
I mean, that's like that's the Trojan horse. The vaccine is the Trojan horse. They want us to have QR codes for everything, for
Yeah.
existing. They just want
Yeah, like look at what Australia's doing. It's nuts right now. Like they literally people, if you don't know, like Australia, you're not allowed to travel out of like 8 kilometers away from your house, which is only like 3 miles. It's not very far, 3 mile radius around your house. Anywhere you go, like if you go to the beach, there's a thing before you go in there that you scan a QR code and tell them, hey, I'm at the beach. And you're not allowed to sit, you're not allowed to swim, you're not allowed to do anything, and you're only allowed like 30 minutes there, and then you got to go back home. And if you refuse to like, get your kid vaccinated, you'll get separated from your kid. Your kid will get vaccinated.
Mhm,
People are going into quarantine camps right now if they won't get vaccinated. It's
mhm.
literally like definitely not as severe, but it's like it seems like what would have been the beginning if of like Nazi Germany type of thing. It
It,
like it
yep,
feels like that.
it is. I think it's as severe. Like from what it sounds like
Like, why
from
aren't we invading them? Why aren't we being like, you can't do that? You can't tell your people that they have to tell you every single place they go. Instead, we're adopting it.
yep.
Like LA, you can't even go to the grocery store without that.
Hmm.
And like that's how they're trying to make it in New York and in here in Massachusetts. Like it's it's
It's
like talk
happening.
about the coercion. They try to coerce us all. Now they're forcing it. It's just like
Mhm.
here, you have to do it or you're gonna be shunned out of society forever.
Yep. I
And
think
I'm like,
enough of us
cool.
that are, yeah, they're like, cool, all right, we'll start our own. Like, just leave us alone. That's all we ask.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want the metaverse. Like, I want to put my hands in the dirt. I want to touch and feel and be human.
I love the metaverse, but not the way that Meta is trying to do it. The metaverse is a beautiful place within like it's like basically what NFTs live on. It's like they live in the metaverse and the communities and the people within the metaverse are really amazing, but what Meta is doing and trying to like overtake that word and
Yep.
over like is disgusting. Like I really hate it so much. Like uh, they even call themselves Meta already. Like if you go to like log out or something, it says Facebook, a Meta company. And
Yep.
it's like so they're already changing, and they had that creepy ass video where you saw that.
Was it like the tiger or something like evil?
Yeah,
That was like,
it was
yeah,
like some Black Mirror shit.
yep, yep, yeah. It's messed up. Like, oh, what? once you start seeing things through your third eye and you're just like seeing the messaging being programmed, yeah. So yeah, not bringing my phone ever. It's like a protest to to that. Like I want to live in a human, like rooted world, human to human contact. And again, follow the money. Like this is all to keep us on our technology because that's how they make money. If we are gathering without our phones, they're not making money. Is that simple.
And they can't listen.
Right.
No keyword. Well, they probably fucking can. There's like, it's crazy. Honestly, the amount of trackability they have on all of us is like insanity. People are like, "Oh, what do you have to worry about?" I'm like, well, that's not the point. Like, I could be the biggest perfect. I could be the most perfect human being in the world in their eyes. Like, I still don't want them listening to me. I don't want them listening to me poop. Like, why do you gotta listen to me do that? Like, why you listen to everything I do?
I mean, and what we have to worry, like, it's not even necessarily like Big Brother listening; it's each other. Like once the social credit system hits, then we're gonna be policing each other, and that's when it gets real alarming. Like we aren't brothers and sisters anymore, and we can't be human to human anymore. It starts becoming really Orwellian.
Mm.
Like once we start, like it's like the thought police. Like that. I start. Have you read 1984?
I haven't. My brother actually gave it to me, and I think he has like one from 1984. So there's no edits or anything that have happened since then. And I'm not a reader. Like I
Mhm.
bought Gary Vee's book. 12 and a half. I bought 12 of them. Yeah, it says it's leveraging the emotional ingredients necessary for business success. For like, we're talking about all this emotional stuff and business, and like, heroes must fall. People
Mhm.
like this like need more support because they're trying to do it the right way.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'm very excited to read that book. I got it like 2 nights ago, or
Like,
last night, no, 2 nights ago, and because my girl's a doula, she's been on call, and she 2 nights ago she left for a couple hours and did something with her client, and then last night she was gone like the whole night. Tonight she's probably like leaving on. I think she said she's got another doula covering like 9 to 1, and then she's gonna wake up at 1 and go there. I'm like,
jeez.
you're
I
all
hope
right.
I hope my client has this baby.
We're hoping for it. We got our fingers crossed.
That's just such a long time in labor.
Yeah, I feel she is. I texted my girl today and said, dude, she is such a warrior. She
Yeah.
is such a warrior. Like, that's so crazy. I can't imagine like what she's going through. Like, because I saw what my fiance went through when she gave natural birth, and basically like I was her only type of pain relief. And um I mean, we had like what was it, like color therapy or something? They taught us in hypnobirthing, like when you could breathe and like imagine colors, and it helps you calm down. It was something like I don't remember that. She didn't like that, but so it was like a color hypnotization type of thing. She didn't really like it, but so I just light touched like the whole time. So I would like run my fingers up her back and like around and like back down, and like just because of the sensation of it, it like releases oxytocin and
Okay.
helps you like fight off pain ish. Like
Yeah.
she definitely felt it. But it was just so beautiful to like watch, and like it is like a, I don't know, like her client's doing a home birth. So it's like it's super like, wow, like you're doing it. Like you are an absolute savage
Yeah.
in the best way possible.
It's just like so primal.
Yeah.
Like that's as primal as it gets. Women, like it's just so amazing.
Yeah, especially, like, having a daughter now, like, I, like, fully appreciate the energy of women, like, I've always been, like it's always been, like, easier, I think, for me to talk to women because, like, the women in my life have always been, like, the anchors for me, like,
Mhm.
especially, like, my nana and my sister, like, they were, like, huge they are, you know, were and are, huge anchors in my life for everything I do, and it's like, I don't know, like, when I see a little old lady, like, I can't help but make friends with her, like, I just I'm just like, it's I don't know, it's so cute to me, I'm like, oh, miss my grandma,"
Yeah.
and, um, I'll never know why I am that way, and I lost track of thought again because I just because I just realized that I did exactly what I said what I was gonna do before the show, where I look up and it's been 2 hours. I was like "Wait a second, what time is it?" Like, I looked over, I'm like, "Holy shit." I
Uh,
always I
we're
always just talk.
yeah. I mean, I feel like there were so many like starts down wormholes and then like detours.
Pivots to
Like we
other
still like yeah, we still
welcome to my brain.
we still have so much to continue. Like there were so many times where I was like, oh, remember to send this to Adam. Remember
Same.
to send this to Adam. So yeah, it's one of those things where like I wish we could just transmit and receive each other's brains like when Neo knows Kung Fu in the Matrix. It's like, here's my brain.
Imagine if you could do that. I don't know, my brain's could be a scary place. I don't know if I wanna subject people to that thing.
I think
It's
it would help us all. I think like judgment would cease if we could just take off each other's perception, like take off perception.
imagine if we could just see each other's traumas. Like,
Yeah.
just to know that, like, even, the person you hate the most because you think they've had everything handed to them in their life, they have trauma too.
Yep.
Like, everybody's got some level of trauma, like, and
It's,
it's nobody thinks of that. Like you said, they think in a victim mentality,
yep.
and it's not healthy at all.
Yep. It's like trauma is like the great equalizer. And it's such a paradox because it's also what makes us feel the most alone. Like
Mm,
you think about like what it makes us feel like, guilt, shame, self-doubt, fear, like loathing. It everybody feels that. Like we all have that experience. Like the most painful emotions, like the most difficult ones, we've all been through it. Like there's not a single person on planet Earth who like I with energy leadership I see a lot of I administer this assessment and it shows kind of like an x-ray of people's energy and everybody has a big like when under stress particularly but it has a big bar of level 1 energy and so we all have it like level 1 is fear worry self-doubt guilt
mhm.
shame like the main thought there is I lose or like I suck I don't matter so that is the most common and yet when we're there we feel so alone and so if we yeah if we could just like learn how to understand how to talk about it more and yeah not be afraid of digging excavating those shadows there's
Mm,
it's also like when we remove judgment of it we see that it's really just a seed full of infinite potential like it's like concentrated dark matter that can be released into it's yeah there's just so much in there it's just packed tight.
yeah, I think the world just needs a little bit more, like, understanding and, like, compassion, and myself included, like, I just gotta get better at it, like you're saying, when somebody cuts you off, instead of just having, just the attitude of, "Ah, fuck, whatever." It's like, oh, maybe they're rushing more than I am, like they're in more of a rush than me. I'm in a rush. I should let them go. Like I'm
Mhm.
always late. That's why I'm always like, oh, like, I just want to.
Yeah.
That's like another reason why I just don't like people in my way, because I'm like, you're affecting my time right now. I'm in a race against the GPS. I can make it. I can make it. I can make it. Like
Yeah.
I'm just always leaving late. So I'm trying to be cognizant of these things and just realize I don't know. I kind of sat in my car today and was like, we're leaving kind of on time. We're dealing with traffic
Yeah.
today. Yeah,
It's
it's
those
like
little, little steps, like day by day, that make long term changes. Like the microcosm affects the macro. Like
I
one
agree.
like micro moment of being like, yeah, we're leaving kind of on time. Like
Yeah.
it'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Well, it was more like I'd prepared myself for traffic too, because like it's just weird. I've been going to Natick for this trading class, and when I leave and when I go there, if I leave on time, I get there basically at the same time as if I leave late, because the traffic like tends to just switch in like that 15 to 20 minutes in between. And then when I left at I'm supposed to get out at 6. When I left at 6:30, I had no traffic. It took me 45 minutes to get home. For the last 2 days, I get out on time. It took me an hour to get home. It's just like it's like, all right. So like sometimes being on time isn't always the best. Like
Proof that time is an illusion.
that is also true. But I don't wanna keep you too long. I can see you getting tired. I'm getting tired too. I've literally been. I think I left at what time did I leave? 8:30 this morning. Got home, ate dinner real quick, hung out with my daughter a little bit. She came and said hi to you, and then went to bed and started the show, and I still got a couple things to work on after this too. So like
Wow.
it never ends, like I'm really grinding right now. Speaking of like getting off the grid, like we're trying to, like buy land and build a house that's kind of far away, like not too far away, but like because I have my son here and everything who like doesn't live with us yet, so I have to stick close, but somewhere far enough away where it's just like if stuff goes down in the major cities, I'm like kind of away from it type of thing.
Good for you. Thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
where this has definitely been awesome. Next year, I'm booking guests for next year, so I'll definitely hit you up at some point to get you on again next year. And
Cool.
I'd love to talk more about like what you do when we get you on here next time.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I've like every time I've never really like seen one of your sessions or anything, and I've like I obviously see your posts, and I just would love to like understand more. So next time I gotta put a note to like ask you more about that.
Cool.
Um, and then yeah, I definitely gotta get you back on. So
Yeah, I'd love to be back on, and I'd love to talk about what I do.
so for anybody listening or watching after this is over and right now, I'm so my stupid brain.
I,
um
I dig it. I'm tired Adam is like really nice and calm and relaxing, actually.
yeah, I'm like
The vibe.
I guess like hopefully everybody was like stoned when they're listening or watching this, and they can catch a vibe too and
Like
get
chill.
sleepy with us.
Yeah.
But for everybody listening and watching, where can they find you?
Um, Probably the most most reliable place to find me is Instagram. I am Rachel for the People on Instagram. And if people prefer Facebook, I'm not on Facebook that often, but my team has a Facebook group, and someone on the team is usually active. And my team is Shamanism for the People.
Mm,
So yeah, everything for the people. Like just trying to help people come back home. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, come back to the earth that we lost track of for a little bit too long and caused a little bit of damage, but it's not irreversible if
Right.
we just start consciously working towards it instead of ignoring it. And it's like the same thing that goes back to talking about our issues and our demons we all have and traumas that we all have. Sometimes you just got to face it head on.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, oh, it's not as scary as I thought it'd be.
Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
oh, carbon sequestering. Oh, there's a, just like, for every problem, there's a solution. So we got
I
this.
love that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, as always, everybody watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, good vibes to you. This has been awesome. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace out.
Thank you.